Good day, I'm Dr. T, and welcome to my office. So what do diamonds and gold have to do with carrots? Nothing at all. But what they do have to do with is the Caleb seed, which imparted its name to the unit of mass known as the carat and the unit of purity, also known as the carat, for reasons we'll get into in a little bit. Okay, so what's up with the seed? Why are we talking about a weird Mediterranean tree? So the Caleb tree grows all around the Mediterranean, and it was, incorrectly I may add, believed to have seeds that were of uniform size. Turns out they vary just as much as any other plant. But it was believed at the time that the seeds were all the same size. So this allowed a point of reference. See, if I'm talking about something and I say, wow, it's as heavy as my cow, well, you don't know how big my cow is. So that doesn't mean that much to you unless you know my cow. Or it's as long as my table. Well, if you've never seen my table, you don't know how long it is. I mean, you got a general idea, but we need a way of agreeing upon something that we know how to compare it to. And thus, the unit. When we talk about numbers, when we compare numbers to each other, we actually don't deal with just the value. It's tempting, and in math class, because all the math is done on the value, the actual, Arabic numeral part of the number, that is tempting to think that's the number, but that's not the number. The number contains both the value, the numeral part, and the unit, the part that imparts context and meaning to the value. So if I say 42, that doesn't mean anything to you. It's actually the joke in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'll go let you look that one up. It's hilarious. The whole book's hilarious, but the joke's good too. Yeah, it's meaningless. But if I say 42 pounds or 42 meters, that gives you a lot more context. You know we're talking about something that has the weight of a mid-sized dog or the length of not quite half a football field. So, context. And that's what these seeds do. That's what the Caleb seeds were providing. This way, if I was, say, selling a diamond, it's like, I will sell you my diamond that has a weight of 2 Caleb seeds for 7 of your goats. By the way, I have no idea the relative price of diamonds versus goats, so, Moving on. This way, I could actually communicate. And thus, we'd have a point of reference. So units are becoming an absolutely important feature, really in early society. You see ancient texts talking about having, just weights and measures. If you look at the Old Testament, just weights and measures are metaphor not just for, trade, but also for morality. Having a single set, not having, a little heavy one when you're buying stuff and a little bit of a light one when you're selling stuff. Once again, a sign of morality. Because weights and measures are becoming, by the dawn of humanity, an important critical feature of what we are doing as a species, and that is trying to trade and communicate with each other. We have to do amounts. We have to have those units. Otherwise, there's a big problem. Now, of course, early development of units, really anything that you both know, you and the person you're talking with or communicating with, can be used as a point of comparison. And therefore, if you want to say it's 6 barley corns long, what would be about 2 inches, 2 inches actually, then, hey, this is a great point of reference if we both know how long a barley corn is, which, I've eaten barley soup, but that's the closest I've ever come to it. Now, with these developing societies, we had lots of units. Lots of units, and it was an absolute zoo. So there was moves to simplify things, and this brings us really into the Enlightenment period. After the French Revolution, the monarchy had been overthrown. Let's just chuck out everything, including the units, and we're going to get new units. This was one of the few times in history where this actual major reform could take place. It was, of course, during the French Revolution, lots of turmoil, lots of upheaval, and thus a somewhat more sanitized, sensible system of units, known as the metric system, was introduced. This was, an age of reason, as they're chopping people's heads off for not agreeing with them, so, reason. And thus, a much more rational, systematic system of units was developed in contrast to the zoo of units that had previously existed. These units still had, an artifact. You had, the meter, the Legrand K, the prototype kilogram, which things were compared to. And you could take your ruler and you could move it up and compare it to the prototypical meter, and you could, hey, this is the standard, and then I can base everything else off of my ruler. And this is actually how weights and measures work up until fairly recently, where if I've got a series of weights, so I've got this piece of metal that I'm using to weigh stuff, what I would do is I would take it up to a piece of metal and compare it, and that piece of metal had been compared to the Legrand K, the original prototype kilogram. And by comparing it all the way to this prototype, through a series of steps, this way I can know exactly how much my piece of metal weighs and therefore use it for calibrating other instruments or using it to weigh stuff. Governments will set up organizations such as the National Institute of Standards in order to maintain and regulate the proper use of units. Make sure everyone's got the same units and are keeping things nice and calibrated, etc. So as a general plea, though, as I end this video, as I said earlier, a number is not just a numeral, not just the value. It always contains a unit. Please don't drop those units. You're dropping the meaning and the context of the numbers when you do, and it's very easy to ask silly questions when you're not paying attention to what the words mean. There's always been those things running around the internet, or not always, the last few years, of, 2 plus 6 times 9 equals. What does it equal? And of course it's a Pedmus joke. But in reality, if you understood the units, if the values hadn't been divorced from their meaning, from their units, then this wouldn't be an arbitrary exercise. You could be able to look at what was going on, logically deduce how the numbers go together, and that's where the real meaning and the real power of math comes. Not from arbitrary numbers doing weird things with just numerals, but with actual numbers fully fleshed out with both the value and the unit, and thus providing the context and the meaning and the understanding of what this number really is and the value it has. So with that said, please don't drop the units and have a wonderful day. So I recorded the whole video and forgot to pay off the initial joke. Okay, so you can probably guess what the carat is with respect to the gems. The carat is the mass of the Caleb seed. Obviously, it's been redefined, so we're no longer actually using some random plant seeds to measure gems. It's based off of grams. But yeah, so this is the weight of a seed. Okay, we've redefined a unit that's called the carat that's pretty close to the seed, and then that's what we use to weigh gems, etc. in. Yes, we could use grams. We probably should use grams, but we use carats. Change is hard. Okay, now, what about the gold? Because that is not a unit of mass. It's a unit of purity. It's a percentage. The story goes that there's a Roman coin, and its mass of that particular coin was 24 Caleb seeds, so 24 carats. The carat gold, the percentage of gold, is describing how many of the Caleb seeds worth of gold was in that coin. So if I had 14 karat gold, that means of my 24 carats total, in that one coin, 14 of which were gold, the residual 10 were something else, and thus 14 karat gold. If all 24 carats of that coin were gold, then it's a 24 karat gold. Therefore, 100% gold. Okay, for real, have a great day.